allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I'll do roll call. To my left is Trustee Hall. I'm Valarie St. John, the policy chair. This is Deputy Superintendent Dr. Bishop. Dr. Tuttle is currently at another organization presenting information about the bond tonight. This is Trustee Jeup, and then we have, if you'd like to introduce our lawyer. So.
Absolutely. So we have Jeremy Motz, who is here from Clark Hill. He is one of the specialists that we work with as it relates to our policies. Just a little bit of background. I believe circa maybe 21, 22. That's when we went from the Neola policies to Clark Hill. Actually wrote our policies. So when I've had a chance to talk to Collins and Blaha, when we talk about our policies, they're helping us with those because they actually wrote the ones that we have now. So and Collins and Blaha does not have their own policy manual. They don't specialize in it. So I thought I would start bringing Mr. Motz here, just wanted to give some legislative updates, but also to be ever more proactive in nature. So we're going over some of the policies and doing some of the things. He can be here. He can talk about some of those things. He won't be at every meeting. We're thinking about maybe every other meeting he can come to be able to kind of shed some light on some things. And I know Dr. Tuttle wants us to make sure that we continue to have a proactive stance when it comes to our policies as well.
Okay, whenever you and Dr. Tuttle feel it's necessary, that's fine with me. I don't want to incur unnecessary legal expenses, but I also want to make sure that we're legally compliant with everything.
Yes, I agree.
All right, so are there any concerns about the agenda? We are going to be discussing two policies. We're going to start the conversation about an AI policy, and then our legal counsel will discuss some legislative updates. So we'll just get right into 2.1, advertising, distribution, or posting of information. The current policy 8.09 is not changing much. Really the only, and I think everybody who grabbed a packet should have this. You can go to the page that has the red text to see what's changed, and really it's just changing it so that instead of requiring the superintendent to approve all advertising or posting of information, like posting banners on school property, that gets kind of bogged down in the weeds for Dr. Tuttle. So we're adding or designee so that she can designate, in this case, currently I believe she would like Mr. Madison as the facilities director to handle most of this, since he knows more about where the facilities are, what might be a conflict, etc., and just take one more thing off of her plate. So if you have anything further to add, Dr. Bishop.
No, only one thing I want to be able to add further is that, also looking through our board policies to prepare for this evening, I also came across board policy 1.08, where it talks about the superintendent can always have a designee. And I think we got into the practice of saying designee, but unless it says solely the superintendent, they can always give a designee. So this is one of the ones we're looking to be able to change, but we may not be coming back in the future to change most of those unless it says solely superintendent, because then that just means that board policy 1.08 kind of covers it. So while we're looking to do it for this one, right, to make it clear, in the future we'll be relying on board policy 1.08 when it comes to the superintendent having a designee to be able to decide some of those things for that we have.
Okay, thank you for flagging that so that we know if a designee ever authorizes something else, even if it doesn't explicitly say.
Yes.
That is still with, and that's 1.08 you said?
Yes.
Right.
Well, I have a few opinions on this, as we talked about.
For sure.
I don't really love this designee. I think it should be easy for everyone, right? Everyone who should people go to, right? So it should be clear and easy, and I think instead of designee, it should say a title like we do for our other policies. It's usually a specific person. So if you're saying this is mostly Ben Matheson, instead of saying that, it should say Executive Director of Building and Grounds. So either Dr. Tuttle or that, or and add maybe even a third, the Director of Communications, which would be Rebecca Fannin, right? So that would fall under either Dr. Tuttle, Ben, or Rebecca.
So it sounds
just to be more specific. And in other, in other policies, we call like a civil rights coordinator, an anti-harassment compliance officer. Instead of designee, we use all these other words. So
it sounds
we
like
should do that here
you
too.
don't think it's very clear if somebody wants to post something on school property, who are they supposed to ask?
Right.
Is there like a form online? Is there a place on our web or on our future website? Will there be a place where people can go and like submit something for that?
Yes, I think Trustee Jeup brings up a great point. So what I can do is I can go back and kind of ask, like, so I kind of talked to Ben a little bit, like designee, while it's a little bit loose, there's
Very
multiple
loose.
people who will be doing that. So we don't want to put everybody's name in there. So we can go back and look and see like who that may be or need to be, or even it might even be a point in time to say that we even need it based upon 1.08. So like I appreciate that feedback. Like I can take that feedback for us. This is just us kind of collaborating today and thinking about that. I appreciate that feedback, and we'll go back and look at that and make a determination and bring that back if we need to based upon board policy 1.08.
Okay.
And that's would you recommend something like that as well?
You know, I know it's, the designee, a lot of times it gets placed in there because sometimes things come up and somebody's not available. So like if Ben's not available, superintendent can designate somebody else. So the purpose of the policies are for flexibility, and I think your point's well taken, that, you know, you want to know people to know who they need to go speak to, which, you know, you can do that in the policy, or you can do that whether it's through administrative rules, administrative guidelines, or just information made available on your website. So there's different ways you can do it. So I don't know if there's a right way or a wrong way if you want to put that in here, but I know the purpose of those is to allow for the flexibility if that person is available. And something needs to approve, if both Ben and the superintendent are out, you know, they can go to somebody else, but,
And for consistency, our policies normally name someone. There's not a lot of policies that say designee. So
Oh, we have a lot of policies that say or designee for different things.
like what?
But, well, I don't have the policies right in front of me now, but I can go
There's
ahead.
a lot that designate a person. So or one or two person, or it bounces back to the superintendent, right? So that we have a clear policy for everybody.
No, I totally get that. I think also I can go back and check and see on a new website, but we'll have a new website soon, what it actually says on there. Because you're saying if it makes it a clear delineation somewhere that someone is the go-to, that's also another source of communication for our community. So I can go back and look at all those things, and then we as administration can make a determination factor about how we want to move forward.
Yeah, if we could put in the administrative guidelines, if the website ends up having a clear place to make those requests, maybe that could be part of the AG.
So you're saying like per website, like are you saying like go to the website to find out, or are you saying?
I'm trying to think of where it should be. Yeah, materials may be posted on a district electronic bulletin board through application to the superintendent or designee's office, and then like have a link within the administrative guideline to what that application is.
Okay.
I think that would be helpful. So would we be in agreement then that we want the administration to take another look at this and not bring it to the full board at this time?
I don't have a problem with the way that it's written. I think it does allow for flexibility, and there are opportunities for, there are times when the one specific person that's named might not be available, and maybe they're on vacation and then someone else is taking over for them. So I think it's still oversight from the superintendent's office, and at that point then they can designate from there. So I don't have a problem with that, and I think if policy 1.08 covers that anyway, I don't think we need to get too specific within here, because it would override that anyway. So that would be my opinion on it.
As long as policy 1.08 allows you to do what you need to do in the meantime, and perhaps rework some of the language, it's fine with me if we wait on this.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate all the feedback from all three of you. I will take that back and make that better.
Awesome.
All right, thank you. So 2.2 is just a conversation starter on AI policies. I know we had Dr. Stanley, our former technology director, working on this and had a draft, and then we kind of scrapped the draft because it didn't even cover what AI had done in the past few months since he had started working on the draft. So, but it's definitely something that we need to talk about. So this is just beginning the conversation. Personally, I have issues with AI because of its massive electric and environmental impacts. It uses a large amount of energy, but when I was thinking about how to approach this, that isn't necessarily relevant to our students. So I would like to focus this conversation on how we can make a policy that works best for our students, and what we need in the structure of the policy in order to make it work for our students and our staff to avoid the confusion. So I know Dr. Bishop's already done some preliminary work on getting feedback from staff and talking to Wayne Risa. So if you would like to share some of that with us, and we can have a bit of a conversation to start with.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. So, as you know, one of our goals this year as a school district is to be more intentional about AI, how it's used, and because AI is here, it's not going away anywhere, how can we help our students to be able to utilize it in ways where it's stretching their thinking and their learning. And so across the district right now, I'm talking to multiple people, and I think what we've learned before in the past from our policies is that we probably haven't talked to many educators or got as much feedback before we start talking about policy. And I'm not sure if policy is where we need to go versus maybe something that might be in the handbook, something that might be in the ethics, because after researching and looking at a couple of different districts, everybody does it a little bit differently right now, and it's something that's also evolving because a lot of the policies are starting out as like fear-based. Like, okay, we want to stop adults or students from doing this, this, and this, and now looking at how you can utilize that maybe to stretch your thinking or to ask the right questions or to just look at your assignment and maybe have you go a little bit deeper. So we don't want it to be something that's based out of fear. We want it to be something that can evolve, that gives teachers an opportunity to say, okay, here's how it can or cannot be used in my classroom. Here's what it would look like if plagiarism when it comes to AI looks like, and how can we utilize it for the thinking of others. So a couple of things we were thinking about is that, of course, we need more people at the table. I talked to several teachers already as far as around AI, and it's really mixed reviews as far as some people are utilizing it right now, some people are not utilizing it right now. Some people are saying that their students are not, depending on what grade level that they're in, depending on if they have a phone or not, depending on if they're using it. Because we all know right now, any kind of Android or Apple phone you have is utilizing it for either grammar check or whatever it might be within the phone. So
You can't turn it off even.
it's hard to turn it off. So we know for a fact it's here. It's just about how do we utilize it. So I've had an opportunity to kind of work with Roy and Risa, and they've given me a lot of good things to think about. So they've asked me, okay, Roy, who do you need to get feedback from as far as from adults and students? That's the one thing I started. I started working with adults. I didn't also start working with students as far as how they're utilizing it and utilizing it in ways that I don't even know. I think another thing is they're looking at how can we use your current privacy data or notices to help support AI. So that's something that we have to be able to review now, along with our ethics codes, along reviewing our student handbook to see what other things would need to be adapted based upon us incorporating the AI features that we're looking to be able to do. And then after we look at some of those higher level questions, then we gotta look at, okay, what are some of the procedure and process? How do we communicate to staff, to students? How do we make sure everyone knows exactly what some of these tools can and cannot do? What are some of the safeguards we need to put in place as far as from the operational management side? And then the third part that Wayne Reese wants me to think about, like what kind of framework should we utilize so it's something that can drive a student to really stretch their learning. And so if you think about that, it's not going to be a one meeting type of conversation. It's going to be a multi-step, multi-meeting place. And I think some of it is even hard, even for me, because every conversation I have around AI, I'm learning something different, something new. So we have to start somewhere, but at the same time, we're not going to have this all-encompassing policy or handbook. And that's why we're starting to think about maybe, is it just this strict policy? Is it something to live into with the handbook? I think that's something we have to have more discussion on with our students and with our staff. Like I said before, staff have definitely given me feedback as far as some of them do like AI, some of them do not. It depends on what content they also teach. It also depends on their experiences with it. And it depends on the grade level and the amount of students, the amount of the age of students as far as how they're utilizing it right now. And so we definitely do need to define it a little bit more, but also look at where we want to be to place it, whether it's in the handbook, whether it's in the ethics part of our board policies or policy in general. But it is clear that staff wants something because that then gives them permission and guidance. We got to figure out what that something is.
Well, I took a little time and I asked my daughter, who's at Baylor University, for all her syllabuses,
Nice.
right, and how it works there, right? How does it work in the universities right now? And I think I love the idea of including the students in the conversation. I think the students and the teachers should really sit down and have the conversation, right?
Like that.
Whether it's in photo class, right, because all that technology, or English class or math class, and depending on what it is, and give the teachers as much leeway. Like, I don't know if we need to have it in the handbook that it's, you're going to get in trouble for using it or not in trouble, because it doesn't matter. It's all based on what the teacher in the classroom and what their expectations are. And if it's written in the syllabus, I probably should have printed this, but like this particular teacher, unless I instruct you otherwise, all assignments should be your original work, and you should not produce in part or in total the assistance of artificial intelligence, for example, GPT, Grammarly, because now Grammarly is AI, right? Or some other resource. Use of artificial intelligence without explicit permission from the instructor constitutes a violation of honor code at Baylor. So we could link it back to the honor code. I may at times use artificial intelligence tool for instruction, right? I think it's important for the teachers to say, we're going to be using it too, and allow or expect you to use them to complete your assignments. But in these instances, I will provide clear permission and guidance for the proper use. So I thought that's pretty good. And then all the syllabuses had a little bit different of a spin to it, but I thought it was good.
I like that idea about having students and teachers have a conversation about it. I think that's important. I think one thing we probably want to be intentional about is that it doesn't look different in every classroom, because then
It can though, because it's going to be different in a photography class than in a math class or in an English class. Maybe
Maybe not different within the department.
Yeah, I think it's not. I guess not say different. I mean, I guess there has to be some controlled autonomy, and I guess what I mean by that is like teachers are looking for something to be to say this across the board is plagiarism, no matter what department you're in. So I think it's important for us to garner their feedback and then be able to say, as management, here are some of the things that we know are best practices around AI. That's what we have to be able to develop. And then once we have a little bit of that structure, okay, in the classroom, could you utilize it to make sure with your students, based upon if you're in a CAD class or based on if you're in, a foods class, and do that. So I think teachers also, while autonomy is always great, I think also puts some pressure sometimes on teacher. And I mean, you maybe speak to this more, like as a teacher, like you want to have some type of bones to be able to get the staff to be able to look at. That way they kind of can put the meat on it. At the same time, we don't have any structure. We don't want staff members to be pitted against each other because one teacher's doing this and saying this is okay, and others just saying it's this, and then it looks to us to say, okay, where's the clear guidance there?
I do like the line about without explicit permission from the instructor, it shouldn't be used, because I think that was actually in Dr. Stanley's original draft, something along those lines, just as a ground floor. Different departments might be giving different instructions about it, but unless your teacher says you can use it, you shouldn't be.
Is that what it said in your first?
you can
It's hard to know when you're using it and when you aren't, though. That's the difficulty.
Because sometimes you can't turn it off
Right.
from your phone or.
Yeah.
I
Just
think
you keep that.
having a general policy to support the teachers, not to say like you can or cannot, but whatever is agreed upon with staff and students in like acceptable use. I think having something to stand behind. So this is very different, but like having a cell phone policy in the building I work in, so that teachers can say, nope, it's not just me saying you can't have your cell phone with you. It's everybody saying it. It's collective efficacy. We're all behind this. We all agree to these guidelines, and then collaborate and decide what you want to do to specific within your classroom. No, you can't use math tools to solve the problems that's supposed to be your homework, or no, you can't have ChatGPT write your essay for you, and that can be like refined within each department. But having something for the teachers to stand behind to support them when they're talking to students or when they're talking to parents and colleagues, so it's a general agreed upon thing, I think is important. So
I think one of the things that might help instructors too is to differentiate between generative AI and just AI as a concept, because when the model is generating content for you, that's definitely not your work if you're a student. And I think that's really what teachers have the hardest time with, is I can tell this wasn't written by my student, how do I discipline them, or am I allowed to discipline them for that? But then there's the things like Grammarly, which now can generate an entire essay, but you used to be just, you put your essay in and say, can you check it for any mistakes? Can you show me where I could write a sentence better? And that's kind of just like having a parent help you with your essay. And I think most teachers would be okay with that. So when you're having these conversations, maybe saying like, do you want us to say explicitly that generative AI is not permitted, or, to differentiate between that and use those terms. Did you have something you wanted to
Well, I was going
add?
to say, like, from looking at it, so when you look at it from a policy perspective of the board, and it sort of goes to the philosophy behind, the Clark Hill policies is, we always say it's like less is more. So the policy itself isn't like 9 pages long. I know a lot of districts are starting to work through the AI stuff, so we have like a sample form policy that you can start from. But it's like if you look at it from what the board is gonna do, and then you can, the next layer down, maybe the administrative guidelines, and that's a little bit more detailed. Then you can get down into like the student handbook, student code of conduct, and then when you look at each, whether it's like maybe the elementary schools has a little bit different practice and procedure than the middle schools and the high schools of what can be done or what's not. But from the board policy standpoint, we've looked at it and say, what can generative AI be used for? And then sort of from the board's perspective, we're okay with it being used for these things. And these are the things that we don't want it to be used for. Like when original content is required, they shouldn't be using it. And you know, I know a lot of teachers now, they will not allow the students, just from my own kids being in school, like the teachers are like, well, you can't use it for this, but then they start to let them use it maybe for a different segment of the project. And so there's different aspects of it. But from the board standpoint, it's saying, you know, we're going to say as a board, these are the things that we will allow it for, we think that would be appropriate, and these are the things that we want to say no to. And then that's the board's directive of saying, okay, then administration and then the different departments and stuff. Because I would agree, like I think depending on what it is, like math is going to be different than English or social studies, where essays are more important than just, you know, arithmetic and stuff like that. So, but that's how, and then you get into the student code of conduct of, you know, what's the disciplinary stuff. So if they do this, and you can start looking at it, it goes into acceptable use policy. So it sort of runs the gamut for a lot of stuff. On once the board says the policy we can do is, you know, sort of this. But we try at this policy level, it's a little bit more broad stroke directives. What the board is saying, yes, we think this would be good, but no on these things.
So the board would basically be saying, for the policies, would be what's black and white, wrong or right use of AI, and then teachers and the administration can decide on more nuanced things.
More granular.
Yeah, on a case-by-case basis. One thing I think would be important to have a policy about, because we have privacy policies and things to protect FERPA, and a lot of the open AI, and I talked with you about this, Dr. Bishop, is that the open AI like ChatGPT is actually gathering data and using it to train their models, and that means that any data our students input is open to the public, essentially. So I would think it would be helpful to say something like staff shouldn't direct students to input images or personal data into an open AI model.
You said input. You said
Students or personal data, or sorry, shouldn't direct students to input images or personal data. Images especially because I know we've seen that can happen where those images are then used for nefarious purposes, and we don't want our kids' images out there without their parents' consent. Obviously, if they're putting images into ChatGPT to make a silly photo at home, that's their parents' business, but I don't think staff should be directing kids to do that. But there are, like you mentioned, there are some AI models that are closed and do not sell the information, don't use it to train models on or anything. And if for some reason the instructor felt a need to use that, there would be an exception for that.
And we should also just keep the parents really close to this, right? Like if anyone see the funny video of the little kid that's adding, he's like 146 times 22, and he's asking Alexa.
Yeah.
And he's doing all his homework. Yeah. So the parents have to be a part of this too, to say, hey, let's write your own essay tonight.
Yeah, I think that's why we're starting the conversation today, is because we definitely want to flag that we want more community input, because I'm sure parents have had all their own experiences with kids using AI at home and will have input on what kind of policies they'd like to see from the school, or what policies they would not like to see from the school. So I'm hoping that we'll get more feedback from that. And also, Dr. Bishop, if you can, I like the idea of asking student groups, or even asking some teachers if they have time, or if it fits into their lesson plans, to have that discussion with their students. What do you think about AI? You know, do you think it's okay to use it on your essays? Not that I'm saying any of you are doing it, but you know, what do you think about that, and what do you think would be a good policy to have? Just and then they can give that feedback back to you anonymously.
I piggybacking on what both of you said, I think there is like a parent component though, like making sure parents understand, like if you see your child doing this, like just putting in at home, like, hey, write this essay for me, like, hey, time out. You know, that's not what it's meant to be. So we got to have like that school to home bridge, where we're making sure that parents understand how students should be utilizing it. So
like collaborative, not like I don't know. Yeah, because it's going to keep being used, right?
Right.
I agree with that. Like collaborative, my notes were not punishment based, right? It's not
Right.
something that has limitations necessarily. I mean, yes, no, you can't use it to write your essay, but I think we need to talk about the fact, like, what are the goals for the students? And this is a tool that they're going to use, whether we give them permission or not. So how do we use that in a way that helps with their learning? Like, we really want them to be critical thinkers. And so this is a tool they're going to use to like grow from that. So what opportunities do we have? What permissions do we give them? And guidance at the same time. So it's not like a punishment based, but it's a opportunity based policy.
That kind of extends like to the why too.
Mm-hmm.
Like making the why pretty clear for everybody involved, like why we're having to use AI. It's not to get out of the assignment. It's not to not have to put your own work into it. Sometimes it can be to enhance certain things, but I think the why is important. Establishing it.
I remember the Family Center and some other groups have put on panels for like, suicide awareness or what are the latest drug terms so that parents can be informed, or internet bullying. I'm wondering if there's an organization that could do something similar for AI. So because I think a lot of parents, especially anyone older than me, might not realize that their kid can just look. I mean, there's like you're saying, the math, they can just ask Alexa, and if you're not literally watching your kid do their math homework, it's very possible that that's why they're not doing well on tests, because they're not actually doing their homework, even though it looks like
Because they
it.
solve algebra with derivatives. I know you didn't do this yourself. we don't use integrals to solve for x in this problem. So yeah, it's clear that they're using it, and they're going to. Like we don't want to be looking over their shoulder all the time. I say to them sometimes, okay, if you're going to use that, use it on an example so you can see the process just like we do, and then you can use it as a
show me all the
guide.
steps.
Right.
Tell me how you got there.
Yeah.
If you can't remember
How
the
can we help the
process.
students to use it as a tool is what I see.
And yeah, I think we had some sort of panel at it was a different Dr. Bishop who did the AI.
Sean Bishop,
Yeah. I don't know if he would be willing to, or someone he knows would be willing to do a training, like a panel round table type thing for parents. I think that could be beneficial.
Good.
Just a
When you talked with Ray and Risa, is there any discussion of there being more of a countywide or, broader policy towards this, or is it pretty independent at this
It's pretty
point?
independent right now. Like I did include a link to their website on the on the agenda that is digital. But when you go there, there are like there's some frameworks other people are using. But right now, every district is trying to figure out what they're different, and some of them are at different spots. Like some people who are in 1-to-1 are in a different spot. Some people who are in BYOD, bring your own device out there. It's like it all depends on different places. But I do wonder if they'll get to a place where not only just do the funding, but they said, okay, here's what we want schools to be able to do with AI. But I kind of doubt it because I don't think they want to take the autonomy away from.
Well, it changes
the,
so much.
Yeah.
That's what's difficult to write a policy because it's going to change so much. So it
Mhm.
needs to be written open enough to be flexible for opportunities that are going to continue to present themselves, but give, like you said, teachers some independence, but also something to stand behind at the same time. So.
And that's what I was saying with the policies, like the lessons more for the board is saying, like, these are the things, yes, no, because as this is changing, like, I don't say daily, but it seems like there's a new tool coming out pretty quickly all the time. So if your policy is consistent there, it still can evolve with that. And now you might, the granular stuff with the administrative guidelines and some of the stuff that each of the building levels or grade levels that might change, but the policy could maybe stay pretty consistent for a period of time. And then maybe obviously periodically looking at it as new things start coming out, just like you guys do all the time. But that a little bit more, higher level policy, I think would be able to last a little longer with those big, guideposts that you guys want to make sure. I call them guardrails, that you guys want to make sure everybody stays with it.
And that kind of makes sense because like one of the things when Risa told me, it was like make sure you review your current acceptable use of technology policy. And I kind of like will go along with that to see what we already have because it is a form of technology.
Yeah, so yeah, it goes with acceptable use. You could get talking to your technology department on what, websites are available through their device. Now, if it's a school issued device, they can shut it down, but kids can still go home and jump on their own computer and use it to then create what they need and then get back to their computer and type as they need. But, some of those things they don't allow access to certain things through the school district issued device to stop or prevent kids from using it at certain times.
Absolutely.
Lots to think about.
Absolutely, some more to come.
Easy
I'll
job
be
for
in.
you. Make a timeless policy that meets everyone's needs and isn't too broad but isn't too specific. There you go.
And you can ask AI.
I'll ask AI to help you with this.
What should be a good policy on how to use you?
For sure.
All right, so in the interest of time, we will finish that. Like I said, that was just a conversation starter, so anybody watching this later online or anyone here in the audience who knows people, please let people know that we are interested in more feedback and definitely want to have a good policy that serves all of our students. 2.3 is a privacy policy for our new district website, which will also have an app that you can download. So it needs a slightly different policy, and I believe this would be something that people have to click on to access when they download.
Yes, absolutely. So this is, we have privacy policies now for the website that we have now, but we're moving to what's called Final Site. Final Site is a new website that we're looking to be able to have, and of course we need to have a privacy policy for the web version and also for the app. But looking through this, one of the things that is on our current policy this one does not have, it talks about like some FERPA pieces. So I do want to make sure that is incorporated in here. I know we do have, I wonder if we kind of kept it out because there are also some FERPA pieces that are already in our board policies, but I want to look to see how we can incorporate those from the old policy for the website to this one. Even though Final Site gave us this one, I want to look at it a little bit more and include those FERPA pieces. I'm going to bring them back after I have those FERPA pieces, and that way we can look to do that, because that's a big thing we don't want to miss. Even if we need to double dip several times, I think it's important for us to be able to do that.
Okay, so this is the boilerplate from the company,
Correct.
but not
Final
what you
Site.
would like us to pass
I
yet.
want us to add some things around FERPA within this one. Now that I have a chance to be able to look at it, and even us on the website, I want to make sure it's clear within this one. Everybody has a chance to click on it from our website and from our app too. Because even though we have an app for our website now, I do believe the app that we have for Final Site is going to be utilized a lot more. And more because we're going to push it a lot more, but also because there'll be certain things within the app you'll be able to see right there on your phone instantaneously that people will probably want to feature now on their iPhone or even on their Android. So I think it's important for us to look at that.
Right, so do either of the other committee members have any suggestions?
Or anything else you would like to see added to this policy too?
Right, any concerns about the policy as written, except for bill language?
I don't.
Is this the one that's going to be that you click on it, say you accept the terms and conditions of use by using the website?
Yes.
I do have a question. So parents would have to accept before students would be allowed then? Like, they wouldn't be allowed to say, I accept this, right? Would the students have to accept?
That's a good question.
That's a good point.
I gotta
Most
ask.
websites, you just click on it.
Right.
It doesn't know who you
I
are.
have to
Like, that would be could be part of our registration. Do you allow your student to access our website for, I mean, they're doing they're doing homework, they're submitting things, so.
Just make sure I have the question correctly. So like if a student goes or downloads the app and then goes to the website, will they have to click this without parent permission is what you're asking?
Right.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
because technically they can't consent if
They
they're
can't
minors.
consent.
So yeah, that might be a good thing to add to the registration packet next year. Obviously, when we roll out this in the middle of the year, it can just be pushed as an email, but
Great
including it in the
question.
I
parents'
mean,
registration.
it's just like our appropriate use policy, right?
Mhm.
Parents are signing that for students in the registration.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that covers this.
Yeah.
That could be.
Great question. I can bring that
Yeah,
back as
include
well.
that. That's a good idea.
I really appreciate that.
Okay, so if there's no other suggestions on that, then we have some legislative updates that might affect our policies.
For sure. So like I have Mr. Motz here, like I said before, he is from Clark Hill, and when we were talking earlier, even weeks ago, as far as coming here and being more proactive when it comes to our updates, especially with him and his guidance when it relates to our board policies that Clark Hill wrote, as well as with our administrative guidelines and our student code of conduct at each level. There's several different buckets when it comes to legislation that we need to be kind of aware of, right? There's the labor component, there's the business services component, and there's the student, kind of forward-facing student safety component. And so tonight, I'm gonna have Jeremy talk a little bit about maybe around 2 or 3 items when it comes to the safety and student safety components. And then I wanna bring it back the next time and we talk about some of those other buckets. But of course, when he does, of course, I'm gonna have potentially our CFO, who's talking about the business items. If we're talking about the labor pieces, I might have Mr. Hamka come to be a part of those conversations. But tonight, we just want to kind of start the conversation because we could be here all night, but I know we don't want to. for us to kind of talk a little bit about the student
Yeah.
safety components, especially some of the things that have come out of legislation that we have done, that we're going to be looking to be able to do, just so we are all aware and kind of be on a more proactive front, so we can continue as a community to be abreast about the policies that our districts need to have.
Yep. So yeah, so thank you, Dr. Bishop. So yeah, we can focus on safety tonight, because like really, I always, when I follow laws, I try to put them in these buckets. It's the labor, employment, sort of the teacher side, all of those things. You guys do employ a lot of people. The students, which could be either what do you have to do for curriculum, student safety, those sides, and then obviously the business and operations is the third one. So that's where I like to put them, so we have some structure as we continue to do this. So when we come along, it's like, okay, we're going to talk about, we could hit all three of them. We could sit here tonight and talk about the budget that was just passed last week and be here till midnight, probably longer. But we won't. So the student safety ones is, now, when we talk about, some of these will affect, policy, but it's not like you have to revise your policy. There's very few laws that get passed that say you have to draft a policy or revise your policy. Now, there are the bullying laws require you to have a specific policy. Title IX laws require you to have a specific policy. Your policies have that. So if there were changes in the laws, we would then say, okay, there was a change in the law, here's an update to the policy, and we can bring that here to explain why we're updating the policy. But there's also a lot of laws and bills that get passed that really focus on, what does the school district need to do, that sort of touch on what your policy says you have to follow the law, but it's not really revising the policy per se, just making sure you're doing it. So that's really what the three we have tonight are things to make sure that the school district's looking at. Some of the things are also the laws require notices to parents, and everyone knows what the annual notice is, but there's some of these laws require that. So it's just making sure you do that. So the first one that we have that went into effect October 1st, so a week or so, week and a half ago, and the school district's already on top of this, but this was the law requires, there's two laws added to the school code that required the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to develop information about safe gun storage, firearm storage, in homes. And as part of that law, it requires the school district to essentially disseminate and provide that information to parents either electronically or via mail. So, and then that's by October 1st each year. So it's starting this October 1st, then each year annually, the Department of Health and Human Services will put out that information. It goes to the MDE. The MDE gives it to the school districts pass it out. So really the school district is just used being the conduit to get the information to the parents. There is, limitations of liability, like, the school district has civil liability. Like, this isn't trying to create a gotcha law, like, oh, you didn't send it out, and then unfortunately circumstances happen with the gun that wasn't properly secured in somebody's home, and it's over the school, you didn't send us out, so we didn't know how to do it. There's none of that. It's just more of that's what it is. So that's October 1. The school district's already started that process, posting. You have to post links on the school district website. They're getting those in. I think they're already up there now. Last time we checked, they were up there already.
That's correct. This also was in Rebecca Fenn's last communication.
Oh.
So if you go back to her last communication, she also has a blurb in there about this as well.
And we did distribute safe storage information in the pre-registration packets, the online.
Yeah, double check that one.
Okay.
To be able to see, because like
Because it
this
started
one
went
came
into
up-
effect on
this one
October
came
1.
up-
The school already
Okay.
Yes, it wouldn't have been the most updated one for the MDE, but
Mhm.
we did distribute some information with the pre-registration
Yeah,
packets.
and
and
if
then-
it's available then.
Yeah,
But this
Ms.
one
Bannon
started,
set
October
the
1.
most updated language, so that we're 100%
Yeah,
compliant.
and so we had talked about is before, when this law was coming up, Dr. Bishop and I were talking about it, saying what is some good way to do it, and that was those regular communications that the director of communication puts out, is having that just as one of the items, putting it in there regularly. You don't have to have it every single time, but I don't see why it doesn't hurt to have it in there a couple times a year, but just making sure it's on there October 1, so line in the sand that we have to pay attention to. So that's one that is just come up, so making sure everybody's aware of that one. The next one on student safety is actually a law from 2024, but it had some delayed implementation. It revised a couple different things. It revised components of the school code and also the fire prevention code, but it requires the school districts to adopt a written cardiac emergency response plan. So this was already required under the old law, just a little bit differently. It's a little bit more detailed now and more granular what they're requiring under the law. So this is something that you have to do starting this school year. So it starts with the 25-26 school year. So these are things that are going to be putting into place. There's another also component that all the athletic coaches have to maintain valid CPR and AED certification, which is pretty much something that the Michigan High School Athletic Association required for all the coaches, at least the head coaches to have. So that's stuff that the district is doing, but you're doing that. Again, this law also has that civil immunity to it, so it's not another gotcha law, it's more to keep the kids protected. So things that have to be in the plan, you have to have a response team, certain activation protocol, where you're going to have the AED placements in the buildings. They want to have that a little bit more granular. You need to make sure like the locations are a little bit more specific on the locations, making sure they're easily accessible. You can easily retrieve them. And then the law recommends, but doesn't require, that an AED should be able to be accessible within 1 to 3 minutes. So I know most schools, they have them, in the key areas, but that's just a recommendation, not a requirement. And then obviously they focus on having routine maintenance, making sure that this plan is available throughout school buildings so people can have access to it. This is probably something that we could put on the website when it's fully done, and when it's updated and all of that. So that's something, again, that this is a law that's for this starting this school year, so school districts really are working this school year to get this all updated. And again, it's really just an update of things that school districts had to do to make it more granular.
Can I piggyback off that a little bit? So just so everyone is aware, our school nurses help support that in all of our buildings. So you probably can't see it on here, but every one of our schools has a cardiac plan.
That's what I was going to ask. I feel like I've seen those in the gyms.
Yep, so most of them are up at our school in various different locations.
And that's compliant with the current law?
That is compliant with the current law, yes. Our nurses do a wonderful job of making sure we're compliant in that. And I think also, correct me if I'm wrong, we also have to do cardiac drills.
Yep.
I believe of some sort. So like as of right now, we're going through to see how do we add that to our regular drill schedule. As of right now, we already have so many locked down, fire drills, other different kind of drills, but now we have to add a cardiac drill to that. So they're going through and helping us to make sure that all of our buildings are able to do those, along with the teams that are in each building, because each building has a team for crisis and cardiac.
Would that be the whole school has to do the cardiac drill, or just
Yes.
the response team?
No, it's the whole school. Yeah, just like with the lockdown, with the fire drill, the whole school has to be involved.
This is a lot of drills.
Yeah.
Because that would essentially require a lockdown at that point, right? As they're like attending to the emergency.
Yeah, and one of the things that we did this year, especially with that, I would call it our process, we added what's called a medical hold. And so a medical hold is one of those terms where someone is having a certain condition within the classroom, you kind of hold all students are in the hallway. That way, if the ambulance is there, they're picking up the student, all the students aren't rushing by. So that's also part of our cardiac plan as well.
No.
Yeah. The plans or the drills, definitely have to have the key, I'm going through all my notes here, they have to have, has to include participation of the defined cardiac emergency team members, but a lot of times if you do, if there is a situation in the classroom, hey, this is what the drill is, and what we're going to do if you have a medical hold, those types of things. So there's specific requirements, and then school will often come up with another plan for the whole building. So if there is a situation, there's lots of students in here, we need to make sure that everything can flow smoothly.
On that, was the entire district trained on how to use the AED devices? I know North was, because the staff went through that a few years ago, but was everybody trained in that?
I gotta double check on that. I know our nurses were starting to get around for some buildings. I don't know if every building.
I know, like with new staff too, but I think that that's something that.
Yeah, it's something we also used to do on our PD days.
Mhm.
To give the staff training on the AED, so I can double check to see where we're at with making sure everybody has that AED training.
I just have a few questions. Thank you for being here. This information is great. Is the goal of this conversation to recommend policy changes to the policy committee, or is this just
These are
no?
more legislative updates.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point in time.
That's great, but we are the policy committee, and maybe we should you should come to a board meeting and talk about it there, because we're supposed to work on policy, but.
Here's one thing I will say this, and I get that. Some of these things may need to change policy like along the way. So like I know he's here talking about this for right now, but some other things we will get to we'll change some of the policy, but maybe you're right.
And come back when you have something you want us to change in our policy, that would make sense in the conversation,
Yeah,
but,
these
and this
are
is
the
great
plans,
information, but I
yeah.
think the whole board would really appreciate hearing all the things you have to say.
Yeah, this is the plan that is obviously not redrafting policy language. It's just the plans that are put in place that, the board may approve at some point when it's all done and updated. But yeah, right now these legislative updates are not specific to, hey, this policy needs to be revised. The policies right now are all compliant with working with these.
You said you had 3 to discuss? Was that
Yeah,
one?
the last one was the universal language of safety measures again. This was laws, again, passed a little while ago, but now this is next year is when it goes into effect. So this is laws that require, the Michigan State Police is working with, to standardize the language that's used. So with respect to lockdown, shelter in place, so the same language is used consistently. So it's changing, again, the procedures that school districts use so that the language is consistent. So if somebody hears a phrase or a term, it's sort of universally understood what that means or what should be done. That's sort of the key component about that language. That is required to go into effect starting next school year. So the Michigan State Police is putting together all of that information so that school districts can then start implementing that. That could require a change in policy, but if we don't have all the information, that's something that is coming down the pipeline in the city.
Okay, that's good to know. Anything else?
And that's it from us.
Okay, we're ready for public comments. So any of the members of the public would like to make a comment? Just, we're informal at the committee meetings.
I'll make a comment.
Sure.
Hi,
Can you say your name too?
yeah, Kevin Nugent. I'm with Pointers for Academic Excellence, but overall, I just had a couple of comments. Just number one, in watching, if 1.08 covers all of these policies and it's implied that the powers of the superintendent extend to the designees in the office, I don't know why that requires a discussion. 2, I think, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but I think you can be both fearful of AI and embrace AI. And the districts that are innovative and moving ahead and moving forward right now have very comprehensive AI policies in terms of incorporating it, integrating it into the educational policy of those schools, classes, teaching about the ethical use of AI, how to use it appropriately. They're not running from it. And I'm concerned about categorizing it into one of 2 areas, one being generative and assistive, and the scope of AI is so far beyond that stage in terms of the levels that it's being used and integrated in ideas, and it goes far beyond plagiarism and other things. I think if you don't have a policy about this quickly, 1, it looks like we're slow to move on it, and 2, it leaves teachers and students out on an island to do whatever they can until the boundaries are set. And I know staff in some buildings are like, oh, I don't even want to think about it. And that's just the wrong. You're just going to get taken advantage of in those situations, and that's not a classroom that's going to be very effective. So overall, I just think that the district should get on an AI policy and quickly. I think it says a lot about a district when they're engaged in that right away up front in a very deep, committed way, because it's only going to expand. AI it's so far beyond where we even think it is right now that this conversation is probably something we should have talked about a year ago. And that's no fault to anybody, just everything moves very quickly. But now that we are aware of its capabilities, and whatever you come up with now is probably going to be out of date for what happens next. So we need to address that for the staff and the students and everybody in the community, because it's important. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment? Committee member comments. Trustee Jeup, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to, you had written me an email on 9/29. Thank you for these suggestions. Our agenda for October is already full with 2 time-sensitive policy changes. I didn't see time-sensitive sensitive policy changes in this, and beginning to the discussion of AI guidelines, I'm happy to put it on the November agenda. I just wanted to let everyone see what I wrote, and this directly affects us. This is what I've already emailed to the board.
Yes. I understand you would like to discuss the
yeah.
committees.
I'd like to discuss it, so if anyone wants to see a copy of, pass it on, thank you.
And to clarify.
Yeah, so I just think this was something important that actually is going to affect our next board meeting, where we're going to have a committee recommending to the board for a similar case as the last meeting. Trying to not say anything wrong. And we have some major issues that we need to deal with because of that. So this is something that should have been discussed and put on this agenda. Again, it was great that you were here. I don't know how you fit into this conversation when we're the policy committee if you're not recommending any policy changes. And I know lawyers are a lot of money. And you came all this way from Birmingham to attend this. That's great. Attend the full board meeting where the public and everybody that comes to the big meetings can see it. So that's my comment for tonight.
I am glad that Dr. Bishop told us that 1.08 currently allows the designee to make these decisions, because I think the reason that it felt time sensitive in the moment was because Dr. Tuttle was trying to approve all of these things herself and really wanted to get that designee in there. But if it works for now, then that's fine. And then the privacy policy was because we expected the website to be up very shortly. And due,
Might need a little more time on that. We're still struggling.
due to technical difficulties, due to technical difficulties,
Exactly.
but it was expected to be up very soon, so that was also portrayed as time sensitive. But I hear you, and we will discuss committee structure at the November meeting. Trustee Hall, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, just to reiterate, and I do think I agree with what Mr. Nugent said about AI is not going away, and we have to embrace it, and we have to have policies that allow students and teachers to use it as tools in critical thinking and learning. So I think I'm excited to hear what the input is and where we go from here, but I do know it's an important thing, and that we're talking about it is good. And I appreciate the updates on policy from the state, so I think if that affects some things that we need to change or update, that's important to know.
So I just appreciate all the feedback tonight. I appreciate it. I'll do that to make it all better for the team. I appreciate this productive meeting tonight.
Yep, I agree. I think we had a lot of productive conversations and got some things started, but just to clarify for everyone, nothing that we talked about today is ready yet to go to the full board, so with that we are adjourned.
Thank you.